The sun rises on a planet held hostage by silicon and code. Overnight, Washington tightened its throttle on artificial intelligence processors, blocking any chip that can sling more than 150 gigabytes of data per second into Chinese data centers, Reuters. Beijing, furious, pressed its lever. A fresh squeeze on rare earth exports, metals with names that sound like spells, dysprosium, terbium, neodymium, minerals without which quantum computers freeze and electric cars stall. The Washington Post. Around the globe, freight rates leapt, stock tickers bled, and the promise of tomorrow's tech took a direct hit. Welcome to the new AI Cold War, where every tariff, container jam, and line of code fractures the ground beneath our digital lives. Before we dive in, smash that like button, subscribe to stay ahead of the quake, and drop your prediction in the comments. Can innovation outrun geopolitics, or are we racing toward a digital iron curtain? A single rule change lit the fuse. The U.S. Commerce Department's May directive slashed China's access to high-bandwidth GPUs, chips that teach cars to drive and models to think, by capping memory throughput at 150 gigabytes per second. Reuters. NVIDIA's top seller, the H20, fell overnight from cash cow to contraband. CEO Jensen Huang admits the ban has already torched $15 billion in potential sales. Reuters. Analysts say an additional $8 billion will vanish from the current quarter alone as Chinese orders evaporate. Reuters. And if you think rival chip makers are safe, think again. Intel has quietly warned customers that it now requires export licenses for any accelerator that exceeds similar bandwidth limits. Reuters. Silicon Valley just discovered that compliance is the new clock speed. Beijing's reply: minerals, ships, and red tape. China holds an 82% grip on key rare earth processing, and in April, it trimmed exports of dysprosium and erbium magnets by 25% under the banner of environmental audits. Reuters. Within days, the Freightos Baltic Index showed container prices on the Shanghai-Los Angeles run jumping nearly 20%. Carriers warn increases could hit 50% by mid-June if the standoff drags on. WSJ. A single whisper from Beijing can now move global freight like an earthquake, crowding Chinese ports with backlogged boxes and forcing tech giants to ration production lines. Freightos. Hit pause and tell us below. Would asteroid mining or furious recycling break this monopoly, or will the world simply pay the toll? Meanwhile, Wall Street feels the shrapnel. NVIDIA still posted a 66% year-on-year revenue jump on back orders from the West, but it must swallow a $5.5 billion inventory write-down tied to unsellable China-bound chips. Reuters. Susquehanna estimates another $4.5 billion will bleed each quarter if curbs expand. Reuters. Investors who once treated AI as a one-way rocket are suddenly asking hard questions about supply chain gravity. Tap the like button if you felt that jolt in your retirement fund. Across the Taiwan Strait, the pressure is even hotter. A U.S. export control probe could fine foundry giant TSMC $1 billion for fabricating a 7-nanometer design that allegedly ended up inside Huawei's Ascend 910B AI processor. Reuters. Because every advanced TSMC machine contains U.S. intellectual property, Washington's long arm reaches straight into Hsinchu's clean rooms. One penalty that size erodes margins on an entire quarter's output and signals that even the world's most indispensable chip builder isn't exempt from the rules of this conflict. Europe tries to write safety into law while begging for silicon. Brussels has fast-tracked the EU AI Act, declaring that general-purpose models posing systemic risk must meet strict governance and cybersecurity standards by August 2, 2025. European Parliament. Politicians hope legal certainty will lure fabs across the Rhine, but for now, the continent still imports most bleeding-edge wafers from Asia. Lawmakers boast of ethics. Purchasing managers worry about lead times. New Delhi smells opportunity in the vacuum. The Indian cabinet has greenlit Tata Electronics' $10.9 billion fab in Dholera, Gujarat, a partnership with Taiwan's PSMC, slated to produce chips by 2026. Tata. Ports, however, are already operating at 94% capacity, and logistics analysts warn that without new freight corridors, the fresh silicon may stall at the docks. Pair that with Washington's latest round of 60 million CHIPS Act subsidies to harden U.S. defense-grade microelectronics, Reuters, and you see a planet racing to build new supply lanes faster than old ones fracture. But beneath the macro, people bleed microcuts. TechCrunch's real-time tracker counts over 22,000 tech layoffs in the first 5 months of 2025. February alone shedding 16,000 seats as AI startups run out of GPUs and cash. TechCrunch. Every pink slip is a mortgage, a tuition plan, a dream deferred. Consumers feel it too. IDC logs a 6% April price jump for AI-enabled smartphones and a 9% leap for mid-range laptops as less efficient chips replace banned parts. Reuters. Academic bridges are burning. The State Department's new directive revokes visas from hundreds of Chinese graduate students working on sensitive technologies, compelling them to pack labs, lives, and half-written dissertations into suitcases, The Washington Post. American universities warn that the move guts research diversity. Beijing calls it ideological McCarthyism. Either way, the global brain sink is real, and the next medical breakthrough or cryptography leap might now orbit farther from Silicon Valley. Yet the algorithmic arms race accelerates. OpenAI's GPT 4.5. Orion landed in February. Insiders whisper that GPT-5 could debut by autumn with self-debugging code and seamless audio-video reasoning. U.S. rules now require cloud providers to seek export licenses if Chinese customers try to train a model beyond threshold parameter counts, an invisible ceiling enforced at the speed of firmware. Reuters. NVIDIA's answer is a deliberately hobbled Blackwell GPU for China, cheaper, slower, but legal, and still welded to its CUDA software moat. Reuters. Would you trust an AI you know is geopolitically throttled? Sound off below. The shipping lanes tell the next chapter. After a brief tariff truce, U.S. retailers rushed to front-load autumn inventory, driving West Coast container spot rates up 8% in a single week and prompting carriers to forecast hikes of up to 50%, as WSJ. Freightos analysts say Chinese port congestion now forces ships to wait up to 72 hours for a berth, pushing door-to-door transit times back toward pandemic highs. Freightos. Logistics executives quietly dust off rationing playbooks that decide which hospitals or data centers get GPU capacity if supply truly collapses. Markets wobble. Economists at Morningstar warn that combined chip shortages, mineral squeezes, and investor flight could shave 0.7 percentage points off global GDP growth next year if nothing breaks the feedback loop. Foreign inflows to U.S. tech ETFs already fell 22% in Q1, Reuters. In boardrooms from Munich to Mumbai, CFOs recalculate 5-year plans around a new risk column. AI Cold War exposure. So here we stand on the fault line. A one-page policy can now halt a billion transistor processor. A container of sand from Inner Mongolia decides whether your phone costs 999 euros or 1,299 euros. Every choice, tariff, sanction, startup pitch, research visa, is a brick in either a bridge or a wall. The next few months will test whether the world can diversify fast enough to keep Moore's Law alive, or whether gates will clang shut, splitting computation into rival blocks. If you value clarity in the chaos, hit that subscribe button so our daily dives hit your feed before the next regulation hits your wallet. And in the comments, answer the question that could define a generation. Can humanity innovate its way past political chokeholds, or will we code the future behind a digital iron curtain? The tremors keep coming. We'll be here tomorrow to chart the cracks on TechFaultLine. Stay sharp.